The second book that has just come out is called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Heaven. So both of his books are available out here. So I'm going to let Grant take over and tell you all about himself and his adventures and what the books are about. Okay. So it's Grant Pealer.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, yes, I do. I definitely want to. I'll quit on a high. I'll just quit now. Actually, this isn't, like she said, this isn't my first time here. I was here 3-4 years ago. Well, I guess it was been about 3 years ago. And I must have done something right since I'm back. So we'll try to make it 2 for 2. You might need to bear with me a little bit. I got a little summer cold. You can probably hear it. But we're going to be fine. What I do, well, it's true I have pre-birth memories, but what I do is, in present, is examine and experiment with psychic and supernatural phenomena. And yes, it can be scary. You read that in Worlds Beyond Death, some experiments and how scary it was. In fact, one part in there, the person asked me, why did you stay there? Why didn't you get out? And I couldn't give him a good answer, but anyway, I did find out a lot. I discovered a lot about science. And I've also written about pre-birth memory, but I'd never really had any intent or desire to give public talks. And so it was, I was a little surprised when a psychic friend of the family came to me and said, I've got some great news. Very soon, you're going to be talking about your work publicly. And I said, nah, I don't know about that. And she said, no, you don't understand. I'm not asking you if you want to or not. She says, I've seen it. It's going to happen. And I said, well, I don't know about how 20/20 your psychic vision is, you know. Evidently, I have no choice about it because I can't use high technology like seeing, you know. But anyway, she said she was told too. And I said, well, that even sounded more bizarre. And I asked her, who told you that? And she said, they did. They did. And she's bizarre. I mean, I said, well, who are they? She says, you know, them. Well, evidently, they know more about me than I know about them, that's for sure. Laugh if you ever feel like it, it's fine. Anyway, I am here again. So evidently, they were right, you know. I'm going to share some exciting things with you and actually give you 2 mind-boggling gifts. Mind-boggling. And we'll come back to that in a minute or so, and we'll see if I can cash the check my mouth just wrote. That's better, thank you. And, but first, I have a very special announcement for you that today, right now, is my wife's and my 25th wedding anniversary. Yeah, thank you very much. Something that might surprise you. In those 25 years, my wife and I have never really had a real fight. Really. And I'm just as surprised to hear me say that as you are, but it's true. Well, my wife doesn't really need to fight. like most women, she has the power of the look. It- that terrorizes men, the look. And you know, a strange thing, only the females have that. Now, there's some men, they say, oh, they think they can do the look, but they can't. They give somebody the look and they're just laughed at. But this big burly man can wrestle a convict to the ground, disarm him, pardon me, and disarm him. And but yet he's scared of his little petite wife when she gives him the look. Well, anyway, surprisingly enough, the beginning of this presentation is about my wife's strange abilities that border on the supernatural. I can be in pain. I've even been in severe pain, and she could take my hand and make the pain go away, and I'll go to sleep. In fact, last night, I wasn't in any pain, but there'd been a meeting, the pre-meeting, and I went back to my room, and I was all wired up. And she says, you better go to sleep now. And I said, no, I can't do that. And she says, oh, what's that on your hand? And I looks at my hand, and next thing I knew, it was morning. She put So she's very powerful. And you're going to think this is a joke, but I've seen it too many times. I'm deathly serious. There can be something broken in the house, and she'll pick it up, hold it in her hands for a minute or two, and it'll usually start working again. You explain that to me. I don't know. I really don't. Well, really, we do. She was very interested too to find out that she does have this power, and where it was formed. And so about 22 or 23 years ago, we went to a researcher, and they said that it was a power that had been formed in a previous life and carried over. And then they identified that life, that particular life. And since then, there have been two others, researchers, independently have said exactly the same thing, that it was formed in a previous life, and then correctly identified that life. My wife has had some amazing incarnations. She was a lady of extreme influence and power in ancient Rome, very unusual for the times. She was a doctor in England during the Black Plague, and she went into those areas where nobody would go because it meant certain death, but she went anyway. But most notable was when she was a queen. Pardon me. And that is when all three say that was when these powers were developed. We know that ancient priests used to evoke certain kind of spiritual forces to protect tombs and burial sites, but they also had the ability, supposedly, to evoke a very special kind of force to protect their kings and queens, and it was supposed to protect them through their life until they returned to the heavenly realms. And today we call that particular force a spiritual jinn. And my wife evidently chose not to go to the heavenly realms. She wanted to stay here, so I stayed with her and has traveled with her since, and that's possibly why her lives have been so strange and unusual. But here's the thing. I don't like to talk about anything without offering some kind of proof. And I wasn't too sure exactly what I could do to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I could get a hammer and, for your amusement, hit my hand and see if she can take the pain away. but I don't think that would be good for you or me. So short of that, we had to find something. And it was a while back, we were at a social, and they had photography everywhere, all kinds of pictures. And it was at that time that this jinn force made one of its extremely rare appearances. And in these ghost hunter programs, you see, you don't see anything with your eyes, but then when they play the film back, you see these little orbs moving around. They say these are spiritual entities, but they're never really large, because to stay here is against nature. You move on. And that's what all spiritual entities do. They do move on. But if they did stay, they would get larger in size. And since that one has stayed with her through these lives, it's become quite large. It's about half the size of her head. And I've got some pictures. Chris, are you ready to change over? Let's see. Here's the function she was setting. You see it right here. She was sitting there. Nobody saw anything. And this strange orb just came along. And then we zeroed in on it, making it, showing it, enlarging it, so you can see it a lot better. Now, it doesn't show up too well in the picture, but in the digital camera, we could bring it up into fantastic detail. And I've learned so much from that picture. In the center, you see blue lightning. And then surrounding the blue lightning, not too clear in the picture, are gel-like pearls. They completely surround it. And these are spiritual generators. And then again, in the digital camera, you could see steams of energy on the far side of the pearl, creating a, not radiation, but a protective belt around the core to protect it. And then it gives off an amazing aura that you can see very clearly. And from that picture, well, you know, actually this is a reverse generator, spiritual generator. If as simple as it is, so simple it just exists, but it's beyond our technology. In a reverse generator, it can take spiritual energy and change it into physical energy, or it can take physical energy and change it into spiritual energy. And that's why, I got one more to show you here. We made copies of that, enlarged it a little bit more. And this is my first mind-boggling gift to you. We made enough copies so everybody could have one. That's it, I'm pretty much done with this. Thank you. Okay. But the thing is, in my research, we all know, I think we know that things hold energy. Like in a haunted house, a doll could hold energy, or a spirit could be attracted to a chair or something like that. And because this was taken of a spiritual jinn, I wondered what kind of energy could be attracted to the pictures. And we took random ones, and I meditated with them and held them. And I found it gives me a very soothing and calm and peaceful feeling. So when I'm done here, you definitely want to go next door, and my wife will be given away absolutely free. There's no reason to not go get one. You definitely want to get this. because in addition to the tranquility and the peace that it gives, to my knowledge, it's the only existing picture of a real jinn. You know, in childhood stories, they talk about jinns, then they change it to genies. There's a difference between a jinn and a genie. A genie is fictitious, but a jinn is an energy force, but you are definitely going to want it. I would suggest when you take it home that you put it in a frame and perhaps put it in some part of your house where you'd like to generate peaceful. You go there and do your meditating. It would help. Like I said, it's free. So please come over and get it from my wife. We'll be sitting at the table together. And something else exciting, as Dolores just mentioned, my new book, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Heaven. I mean, that's got to get your attention. It talks about the dimensions as we progress. Well, actually, it explains coming into this world. Now, I think everybody's interested in where we came from and where we're going. And pretty much, a funny thing happened on the way to heaven covers those wonderful dimensions that most people don't ever talk about, because they're concentrated on afterlife. But and then, of course, worlds beyond death talk about the dimensions that you will experience. And there's a fantastic journey in there. And it's the one with a beautiful butterfly on it. Another beautiful, they do the most beautiful work here. In fact, today's the first day I saw this book. I'd never seen it before today. I was just so impressed. It's so beautiful. It's just fantastic, Dolores. That's beautiful. I know you do. It's twice. It's twice you knocked my shoes off. Hold on one second here and get this ready. Like I said, one book's got you coming into this world and one's got you going out. So I've got you coming and I've got you going. I have, well, a lot of people ask the same question. I have a granddaughter that's 7 years old. And she asked me, she says, well, Grandpa, when you leave this world, don't you pretty much go back to where you came from? And I guess most people think that, but that's not so. There are many spiritual levels. And you enter at this level into a physical life. And your physical life, you don't really realize it, but it's so extremely important why we're here. In case you never wondered, the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? It's a spiritual elevator that raises you up. You get on here, you go up, and you get off here. It's always higher. You can go back here if you want to visit, see old friends, whatever, but you yourself are spiritually elevated. You can go up where they might not be able to. And she, this same granddaughter, 7 years old, recently attended a funeral. And she seemed very troubled during the program. And I'm sorry, but I think a lot of funerals are morbid. They should be more of a celebration of life. You should be happy for the person. When we cry for ourselves, that's all right. But I know a lot of people here, I've got some friends here that have lost somebody. I have too, just the past year. But you must celebrate their life. Be happy for them. And because when you go to the other side, you don't want people really mourning you. You want them to be happy for you. They want you to be happy, which is hard to do sometimes when you love somebody. But basically, that's my feelings about funerals. But anyway, after it was over, she still had this troubled look on her face. And she said, Grandpa, what's going to happen next? And I took her aside. I said, well, I've explained to you about the meaning of life. That you get on here, you go up, and you get off here, you're always higher. If you want to reincarnate again, you get back on, you go up higher. But when you get to the fifth plane, the soul plane, that's the end of reincarnation. You don't have to go any higher. I mean, you're into the true God worlds. And I says, and when you hear somebody mention hell, I think somebody says, well, you don't have to worry, they didn't go to hell. People don't understand that hell originally only meant school. And so if there's a hell, we're in it now. I think you almost agree with me. If this isn't hell, I don't know where the hell is. But anyway, I didn't tell her that, but anyway, when I was done. And I also said, I had talked to her about lower planes, lower worlds. From that, everybody gets to think of hell being inside the earth or some lower worlds. The lower worlds mean lower vibrating planes. The God worlds are divided into two divisions. The spiritual students that are here, Rosicrucians, Masons, whatever, you've probably studied about there is a major division between the lower and the higher vibrating. And that's all it means. When it says lower worlds, it means lower vibrating. And but all the lower worlds are better than the earth. The lower vibrating worlds consist of the physical, the astral, the causal, and the etheric. And what we think of as heaven is the etheric plane. So we can't even really comprehend the higher vibrating planes. But the object is to reach the fifth plane in this life. And you have spiritual assistants. You have spiritual entities that personally work with you. And there's one of them, the inner master. It's his job to get you to the fifth plane. And I would say probably everybody here will reach the fifth plane in this life. In fact, most of the world will, unless you're just violently bad, because spiritual knowledge is, a lot of people have reached their zenith in what's taught. You know, they've gone beyond it. Like somebody mentioned earlier, you had to believe what they say or you're evil, you know, and so you pretty much worked yourself past the physical world. Next thing, I have mentioned the soul plane. And at that point, it opens up about my most favorite subject, the Paramahansa. It means the beautiful people. They are the residents of the fifth plane. And they are the singular most important spiritual entities that you personally will ever engage. They assist you twice. When you came into this world, it's true, you've always existed, but you were like an empty computer. When you came into this world, they programmed you so you could learn. This is one way to explain it, so you can understand it. They programmed you, enabled you, gave you abilities, helped to form your personality and all of that. So you could survive in the school and learn and grow. That's the first time. Now, the second time you will engage them is when you graduate into the fifth plane. At this time, they don't reprogram you, but they enhance your programming. They give you tremendous powers and abilities and the wisdom to go with that. And even though a lot of people don't like my references, because I'm the one that always says little gods. You are a little god. And I'll tell everybody that you are a little god. And at that point, you start developing those abilities so you can be a little god. Um, but what's written of them is they seldom come to earth, to the physical. Because if you need assistance, there's other spiritual entities between you and them. As I mentioned, you have, every one of you has at least 2 spiritual entities helping you. And so the Paramounts don't need to come. But they do come for 2 or 3 reasons. And one of those reasons is that if they are being taught about at an official function in front of a group of people, exactly what I'm doing now, does that mean there's a Paramahansa here? According to the law, yes. Is it an individual? Or is it a consciousness? Well, the consciousness is here. There's no doubt about it. And that's quite amazing. We've got an archangel, and we got a Paramahansa consciousness. This is fantastic. And we got a jinn energy here. You stop to think about it. I feel sorry for all the people that couldn't make this time, because we are, this is a fantastic time to capture supernatural phenomena. If you have a digital camera, I would say take a lot of pictures. These forces are here, and capture them. But anyway, well, the Paramount, and again, could it be a person? I have found out that not only can it be a person, it most often is a person. I'm not saying that he's here now. I'm just saying be kind to each other. Well, the consciousness itself is here. What does that do for you? When the Paramahansa consciousness moves into an area, its vibration is so high that it will raise the vibration of everything and everyone in it. And what does that mean? Your vibration right now, well, even before I started speaking, it was known I was going to speak about them. And so the Paramahansa consciousness has pretty much been here for that time. When your consciousness is raised, when you feel good, you're happy, but something even more important, it opens you up to receive a miracle or a blessing. It's like to a spiritual student, they call it the darshan. That's when the neophyte goes before his spiritual master, and the vibration, the master's vibration, will elevate his to a point that opens him up to receive a miracle and a blessing. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. Now again, just like with the jinn, I needed some kind of proof. So I don't really know what to do. So I took the problem to Dapran. How many have heard the name Dapran? You haven't heard the name Dapran? Start with Worlds Beyond Death. And then, actually, the funny thing happened on the way to heaven. Again, this goes into fantastic details about Dapran. His physical name, that's his spiritual name, his physical name was Darwin Gross. He's been a spiritual master to literally millions worldwide. And he has phenomenal powers. Unbelievable. In fact, even Dorrance called the editor to ask me how he did a certain thing. He was in a convention hall, just like this one, And it was a blind. They're just a little thing you set up here. And there was 2 exits, one in the back and one to the side. And those were the only 2 exits there. No trap doors, nothing in the back. And he needed to get, he said he had a meeting with the higher initiates, and it was time for him to go, but everybody knew that people were going to flock him and block him and want to talk to him and touch him and all, shake his hand and all that. And he just didn't have time. And he stepped behind the blind, and everybody just left, except me. My mother was at one door, and I was at the other, waiting for him to come out. And he never did. And pretty soon the place is empty. And I go back inside, and my mother there, and I said, "Where'd he go? He didn't go out your door, didn't want mine. There is no other way." The custodian was even there, cleaning up. And I said, "Well, where's another exit?" And he said, "No, those 2 doors are it." I said, "Well, what about if you have band instruments to bring in or something?" He says, "No, that's why we have a door on the side here, is to get anything up here onto this little stage." So, well, I don't mean to question you about your wisdom, but maybe there's a trap door for magic acts or something. And he said, no, I've been here for 25 years, there's nothing. Well, Darwin, in front of everybody, stepped behind the petition and disappeared. It was not a trick. So that's who Darwin is. Okay, I went to Darwin with the problem. And he said, well, there are 2 laws in the physical universe, the physical laws and cosmic laws. Your physical laws made by man can be changed, but cosmic laws can never be changed. So I would suggest you read to them about the law of vibration and the law that regards the Paramahansa consciousness. And first of all, I'll tell you the law of vibration. He told me slowly, and I wrote it down. The law of vibration. Everything vibrates. Not only the higher and lower planes, but all things existing within those planes. That includes not only all things living or incarnate, but that mysterious essence called consciousness. And when a higher vibrating consciousness penetrates the vicinity or aura of a lower consciousness, that lower consciousness will be elevated to the higher state. A high vibration does not come down. It always draws a low vibration up, drawing to itself the benefits of that vibratory rate. To the individual of the lower consciousness, these benefits will seem to appear in the form to be blessings and miracles. Well, that's the law of vibration. Now, as to the knowledge of the Paramahansa awareness, this particular part, in regards to group blessings, this part actually blows my mind when you start to study it very carefully. The superimposed consciousness of the Paramahansa is so magnanimous in its entirety that it can and does encompass an entire function, occupying any area or assessing where knowledge of them is being shared. Now, here's an important part. Obviating the necessity of time and space. Okay. Where knowledge of them is being shared, time and space have been obviated, done away with. And while we might just pass over that, it's just a nice little saying, what it means is mind-blowing. As long as this function continues, this particular conference, as long as it continues, the Paramahansa consciousness will be here, elevating the consciousness of each of you. And even people that might arrive Sunday afternoon, they won't know anything about this, but they will walk into it and all of a sudden they're going to start feeling good. They're going to go home, good things are going to start happening, and then they won't even know why, but that's why. But when you obviate time and space, do you realize that as long as this function is existing, that includes the movie, the DVD, the internet, anybody that's watching this, their consciousness will be elevated, opening them up to receive blessings and miracles. Even though you're here at this conference, you might want to get a DVD also, and maybe get a couple for your loved ones. I've got nothing to do with the DVDs, but I'm just saying you might want to. For every time it's played, it elevates the consciousness. And of course, the internet, anybody watching it on the internet will also have their consciousness elevated. Earlier, and I was being funny, I was trying to be funny, I said that the psychic told me about them. I said I didn't know who they were. Well, actually I do, because since then I've mentioned that you have two spiritual entities that are always available to you. You can call them at any time. And I've always called them the spiritual guide and the counselor. The spiritual guide's job is to get you to the fifth plane. That's his object. And so in this life, pretty much you probably will make it. And the counselor, well, he's the one that you sleep on it or think about something. That's the consciousness that's working with you to solve problems. When you were maybe 6 or 7 years old and you decided you wanted to fly, and you took an umbrella up on the roof, it was the counselor that talked you down. That friend wanted me to also mention that I've called it the counselor and the spiritual guide. The proper names for them are the inner master and the intermaster. It's the job of the inner master to give you your advice. Thank you. To give you your advice. And it's the job of the intermaster to get you to the fifth plane. Something else, just little things that might come up in questions and it might not, but I thought I should cover them, is can ghosts and spirits spy on you when you're in the bathroom or you're in bedroom? No. In fact, that's in here. The funny thing happened on the way to heaven. You learn that spiritual entities are controlled tremendously. You're the one with the freedom. It's your world. It's your life. They have no right to interfere with your life. They cannot spy on anybody. Even people that can do soul travel or astral flight, if they tried to spy on someone, their ability would be gone. That's highly regulated. In fact, one part in here, I talk about ghost paths. A ghost is a ghost path. We researched that. It was about 7 months ago, no longer than that, almost a year. We went to a mansion, and it was fantastic. We followed an energy trail, and we thought that it was filled with entities, but it was a path that they could travel, and we had the special equipment for it. And you step out of it and go out. They have to stay in that path. And I followed it, and it went right up to a bathroom door, and then turned and went out the door. It wasn't allowed to go into the bathroom or to a bedroom. It wouldn't go into a bedroom. And that's when I started to understand about ghost paths. And I don't think anybody else has ever mentioned ghost paths. That a spiritual entity can only move in an area that it's been given permission to, preferably by you, by not objecting for them to be there. If you object for them to be there, they wouldn't be there anyway. Question that's been asked of me, and I think that's and you can ask some questions. We've got about 10 minutes left. But one question that has been asked of me is, do they talk to me? Because it's basically, and I always give them the same answer. I say, do you mean, do I hear voices in my head? And they said, well, yeah, I guess so. I said, no. Actually, they give me impressions or thoughts that I can understand. In fact, most ideas that you get are coming from these inner forces helping you. Okay, well, let me tell you one more thing. I almost forgot. Okay, thank you. There was one sweet lady, I don't know if she's here this year or not, but the last one I was at, the book, it just was still brand new, and she said, I read your book, Worlds Beyond Death, and it's like no book I've ever read before. Most books, repetition is, I've never read anything like that. It was shocking, and I reached the end, and I wanted more. And so I started reading it again. And she said, I've read it 3 times already. When are you going to write another book? Well, dear sweet lady, if you are here, I've got the continuation, which might be a warning to all of you. They can be habit-forming. So if you don't know who Dap Ren is, you're definitely going to want to get Worlds Beyond Death, too. But anyway, of course, they're right over here, and I'm going to be over here in just a few minutes giving, my wife's going to be giving the pictures away. Do we, at this point, have anybody that would have any particular questions? Anything I've said, anything I've written, I'll be so broad as to say, any spiritual questions at all about spiritual nature, anything you might have ever wondered, because I've been told if I couldn't answer it, they could, and I want to see that. So anyway, do we have somebody that would volunteer? Yeah, come on, take a chance. There we go.
How old am I?
Oh,
I don't mean right now.
Oh.
I know how old I am right now.
Okay. I know exactly what you mean. In fact, I jumped over that with my wife when I mentioned that a past life. That was 3,500 years ago. Actually, I not a reader. I can't read anybody's auras. I just do the science of it. But I would say most of us may have lived 2 or 3 lives. And I think that the lessons here aren't that hard to learn. Kindness, gentleness, compassion for others, But it's a simple thing to learn, and you could learn it in one life, but the lives in the past have been so short. Just 100 years ago, I think you died when you were 35. But the mere fact you would ask that question, I think it would put you on the same level with my wife, because it's not continuous. You can leave here and come back 2,000 years later, and to you, that time didn't really exist. So to actually say a certain date, the better question might be when was my first incarnation, but I wouldn't know. But I would say most of us, if you've had 2 lives, and being as spiritually developed as this crowd is, by talking to them, I've discovered that, I would say that most people are about the same as my wife, about 3,000 years old. Yeah.
Okay, I'll accept that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear.
I'm 80 here.
I've lost both my parents already, and I just wonder how they're doing. My father died in 2005, my mother in 2009, and both from long, protracted illnesses. And I feel them every now and again, and I wonder how they're doing. Specifically, my mother, who was under the sway of the Catholic Church and believed wholeheartedly. What are they dealing with? Because, I do feel their presence every now and again. It's comforting.
You undoubtedly do. My grandson died a year ago, and he still stays in contact with me. We used to play a game. We stick up behind each other, and they're in a chair, and I touch the top of his head, and run. I feel it all the time. He's touching the top of my head, and I say, "Hello, Michael." Why spirits come, how they have the ability, this picture that I showed you would explain that. The spiritual and how it operates, the vibrations. You were saying, how are they doing, though? Well, you can be assured they're doing excellent. They're doing wonderfully. And they are undoubtedly, the mere fact you have love for them, they will stay in contact with you, I would say, most of your life. It doesn't mean they've got to give up anything to come down here. Like I said, life is a spiritual elevator. The mere fact they lived a life, they lived a good life. You say she's Catholic, very good people, and they would be very high. In fact, in worlds beyond death, I really stepped out there a bit when I talked about heavens. Dolores mentioned I have pre-birth memory. I have seen heavens. Heavens really do exist, but it's not like we really think where there's just one heaven. Everybody probably thinks, well, we were the ones that were right, The Catholics, I've seen the Catholic heaven, and in Worlds Beyond Death, I mentioned my journey there. I wanted some assistance in helping people get rid of ghosts and spirits in their house, And I knew that the Catholic Church secretly had ministers. They've got special ministers for that. But even though they wouldn't admit it. And but one night, through OBE, out of the body experience, I saw the Catholic heaven. It was fantastic. And so undoubtedly if that's what they wanted, the Catholic heaven, that's where they are, But another thing, they will move on. Like I said, that's still the etheric plane. And it's still part of the lower worlds. So they're still going to cross over into the 5th plane. And they're very close to that, I would say. And at that point, they become, my term, little gods. And so you're very blessed that they're with you, and you never need to be sad. Always be happy when they're around.
It's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Got 5 minutes if you got anything else. All right, great. Come on, that's great.
I just have to ask this. When you see the soul contract, is it a 200-page document or like just a small life lesson or?
The what contract?
Your soul contract.
Oh, the soul contract.
Is it a big document?
Well, I'm not really sure of a soul contract. I've never really heard that expression before. It would be, you're coming here, you mean, coming to the physical world.
Yes.
Yes. There is nothing written in stone on it. It's a blessing to you to have this life, to have this time. There's a lot of people, I understand, I've been told by spiritualists that there are a lot of people that want to reincarnate, but it takes time, you know. And, but there's nothing here, like I've got your soul. That's foolishness, because whenever I hear anybody say that, I'm going to lose my soul. You are your soul. How can you lose yourself, you know? So your soul is your contract, and you will have it forever.
Thank you.
You're welcome, darling.
I was really curious to know how you came to realize you didn't have the veil.
Oh, you read that, yes. Yes, okay, thank you. This, I guess, will be the end, right? Okay. I did not want to return. Well, here's the thing. I was in a past life, and I had an accident. I left that life too early. I was not supposed to leave as early as I did. It was purely an accident. And I wanted to return. And even though I was trying to be talked out of it, you know, and very nicely, your guardians and all this, well, you know, it just can't do it. It can't be done. And finally, just to calm me down, I was insisting I return. And just to calm me down, they said, all right. They were actually talking to a person. You've heard of the judgment. Don't be afraid of a judgment. It's nothing horrible. It's actually a wonderful experience. It's not a court judging you and what you've done and all that foolishness. It's a blessing within itself. You go before, you're taken with your guide to, and it's decided where you're going to go next. And usually you get promoted, go higher. And it was decided that I didn't have to return to the earth. I didn't have to come back. And I fought it so viciously. And then they said, all right, you can return. But they meant another life. I didn't know that. But when the time came, I no longer wanted to come back. That's this. You've heard of that, haven't you? I think everybody has. Nobody wants to come back once you leave. And now I took it as a cruel joke that I'm coming back, but it wasn't. They had decided that I could do more good here than I could there at this level that I'm at, like right now. Maybe I'm helping somebody, I hope. And with my books, whatever, I can reach somebody with knowledge that you don't find in other books. You read one of my books, and you read somebody else's, you're not going to be anything alike. Well, anyway, you asked about the veil. I didn't want to come back. And for that reason, I remember it was like when you talk about something spiritual, it's hard to translate into physical words. But it was a beautiful garden-like. And it was like a spinning hypnotic wheel, and that's what erases your mind. So whoever came up with the idea of the spinning wheel remembered that wheel, because it just erases everything. But I remembered something about the guardian there had told me to base my life on 4, because 4 was going to be my lucky number. And that insignificant little thing, I just all of a sudden said, I hate 4, because I couldn't remember everything. Everything was being erased away. And I just kept hanging on to I hate 4. And when I came out of it, I was able to remember some things simply by holding on to a thought. I held on to several, and then slowly, it was like a little leak in a dam, slowly more and more came. It wasn't, I knew everything all at once. And I think last time I talked about, I remember being born. And I've been surprised since then. I've had 3 or 4 people say, I remember being born. And they described it the exact same way I did, with this cold prongs, like something that hurts them, I remember it. Well, anyway, that was it. It was because I just had so much hate. I didn't want to be born, and that's why I remembered. Well, I want to thank you all so very much for your love that you've given me here. And do not forget, you don't have to buy anything. That this picture is free, and it is energized, and it's the only picture of a jinn that you'll ever see in the world. And thank you. I look forward to talking to each of you later. Thank you.